Hi, Tamal. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
In this week's column, you discuss India's inclusion in the Global Bond Index. Have foreign investors been able to utilize the current pool available to them?
No, not at all. Very, very minuscule part. But one of the reasons is, if not the reason, is that India is not in the Global Bond Index. So, once you are part of the index, the investors typically get confidence to explore. I mean, look at in India is a part of the MSCI. So similarly, once you are a part of this kind of indices, the fence sitters and all, they get much more confidence and they take a call. Because apart from the sector specific limitation, the caps which have not been used, apart from that, from 2021, Reserve Bank of India has started a new kind of bonds, which is so far, I think 20 odd have been issued, which is called fully accessible route, FAR, where foreign entities, FPIs can invest money. Even that's also not used. So you can say that, well, it's not used, so why do you go to the bond index? I would say the other way. If you get into the bond index, then its possibility of the investment going up, it's much more.
Now, an interesting aspect of your column was the issues that you discussed with the Global Bond Index inclusion. Can you explain them in detail?
No, there are challenges. If you see, we have been talking since the taper trend term 2014, what we faced, the record current account deficit. So, if I'm not mistaken, since then it's been intense discussion. There are challenges. One of them, of course, the tax challenge, because of you have the capital gain tax and withholding tax for the investors' point of view, I'm saying. Other part is the settlement, they say, because typically not every country, but some of the countries, their bonds are being traded at Euroclear, the global exchange.
Yeah.
Whether India is willing to do, but here is a caveat. I think our bond market sophistication, the payment and settlement is one of the best in the world, probably better than some of the developed markets. So certainly there's not an issue. And the third point is it's very cumbersome, getting enrolled in India because the so-called KYC norm. Investors who are keen to explore Indian market, taxation is not an issue. Again, India probably is not averse to the idea of the bonds being traded instead of CCIL.
So why was there a sudden rush towards this global bond inclusion?
No, it's not sudden rush. Actually, the noise, I would say that it was more intensified and expectations were high because of Russia's exclusion, so there was a gap, and everybody thought, and the discussions are on, that this time India would get in, and probably India would get into the 10% club, because Russia's weightage was about 7%, and China and some other 7 countries, they have 10%. They are a part of the 10% club. So we thought that, many of us thought that this time, because of Russia's exit, there's an opportune moment for India's entry. But for reasons we do not know, probably the global markets, the scenario, all things are not exactly conducive. But I would like to believe the wait will not be long. Probably next year we'll see India's entry.
Now, a point that concerns me is an integration shall also entail India experiencing the effects of global capital movement much faster. Flight of capital will hurt us more. Is that a risk the government should take?
Absolutely, there is a risk. You didn't ask me, but I'm telling you there's a risk for investors also. Because, investors, this is not dollar bond, this is rupee bond. So there is an exchange risk, right? Typically, rupee depreciates around 3 to 4% in the past 2 decades. I've seen every year versus dollar. So what happens is, if I am a global investor, the choice is between putting in money in dollar, that's US bond, and India. I need to earn higher than US from Indian market, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't gain anything.
Yes.
Now, I need to earn more, and as much as which can also take care of the currency risk. Okay, so then what is the choice before me? I leave it open and take the currency risk, or I'll hedge my exposure.
Yes.
Now, the so-called hedging cost actually neutralizes your return. So typically these investors don't hedge. So they keep it open. As far as government and Reserve Bank of India is concerned, yes, indeed, you are right. There is a risk of outflow, because any geopolitical development happens. If the money is rushing to the safe haven, which is typically US dollar, then you see there's a huge outflow. If you want the economy to grow between 7 and 8%, and we are into this Amrit Kal for next 25 years, when India turns 100. So if you want that kind of growth, our domestic savings is not enough. So you need to take that risk. I mean, it's up to the government, but my understanding is both the government and the regulator is ready to take the risk.
Thanks, Tamal. Thanks for coming on the show. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
I am the blue of the limitless sky. I am the inspiration that led success soar high. I will achieve, I will fly high. I am the I in SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.